Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us in this wonderful Monday. I hope it's a good weather for everybody. Here it's a little bit cool, I should say. I mean, it's not so bad. It was raining a couple of days ago, and today is 78 degrees. It's going to be 71 in the middle of the night. So I don't know how it's doing over there. St. Louis, Toronto, and elsewhere. So we're going to talk today about the portion of Emor. And the topic is very interesting, but I thought we should pick on and then talk on Shabbat. We're on page, I think, 235. No, 285. All right, Ellen, the mic is yours.
Rabbi Yitzchak tells Rabbi Yossi why it is wrong to speak of vain matters on Shabbat, because it awakens non-holiness on the holy day. This causes deficiency. Contemplation without speech is acceptable because it does not activate anything. Holy speech rises up and awakens the Holy Sphirot.
רבי יוסי ורבי יצחק אהבו אזלה באורחה. אמר רבי יוסי לרבי יצחק, כתיב וקראת לשבת עונג לקדוש השם מכובד וגומר. וכיבדתו מעשות דרכך שפיר, אבל ממצוא חפצך ודבר דבר מהו, והמאי קריאותה הוא לשבת.
Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yitzchak were walking along the way. Rabbi Yossi said to Rabbi Yitzchak, it is written, and call the Shabbat a delight, the holy day of Hashem honorable, and shall honor it, not doing your own ways, is fine, but what does, nor pursuing your own business, nor speaking of vain matters mean? And what deficiency is there for the Shabbat if one is engaged in speaking of vain matters?
אמר לו ודאי גריעותה הוא דלת לך מילה ומילה דנפיק בי מפומה. דבר נש דלת לה קלה וסלקה לאלה. ויתאר מילה אחרה ומה יהיו ההוא דיקרא חול. מעינון יומין דחול. וחד יתאר חול ביומה קדישה גריעותה הוא לאלה ודאי. וקודשה בריחו כנסת ישראל שעלה עלה. מן הוא דבאי להפרשה זיווגה דילן. מה הוא דבאי חול אחר. עתיקה קדישה לה יתחזה ולה שריה על חול.
He said to him, assuredly a lack is caused to the Shabbat because there is not a word coming out of a man's mouth that is soundless. The sound rises up and awakens another word. It is that which is called non-holiness, for whatever is not holy is non-holy, pertaining to the non-holy work days. When non-holiness is awakened on the holy day, it surely causes deficiency. And the Holy One, blessed be he, and the congregation of Israel ask about him. Who is it that desires to interrupt our union? Who is he that needs the non-holy? Atika Kadisha does not appear nor dwell on the non-holy.
Okay. So, who can tell me what we're talking about here?
It seems to me, I mean, I guess it's even more, the energy is even stronger on Shabbat, but it seems like this is something that would be for always. To speak certain things awakens energy. So for better or for worse, but it almost seems like a more disrespectful or more negative to dishonor the holiest day of the week. But it seems like anything that we say that is maybe vain or gossip or anything else is awakening energy. Our words awaken energy, and it's even worse to do on the the holiest day of the week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anybody else wants to add something?
Well, Shabbat, you're reaching the light with the Torah, and if you're speaking in vain, that's malchut, so you're disconnecting from the light. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm. So how do we bring this down to practicality? Because we can say, okay, so are we talking Shabbat as being Saturday during the week? And for those that have been aware of Shabbat, are we observing this sort of like sanctity of not speaking in vain on Saturday? Meaning in vain, like from what the Zohar is discussing, is like nothing that is like of mundane nature. So it needs to be dedicated to holiness, right? Like study, spiritual connections, meditations, prayer, and whatnot. So this is what we're talking about, right? Yes? Yes? We're not sure. We're not sure what we're talking about, are we? And to tell you the truth, we're discussing the idea of Shabbat, but when did Shabbat, the way that we know it today, begin? When did it begin? Like, did they have Shabbat in the desert? Did Abraham have Shabbat? Was he doing everything that we do today to observe Shabbat with all the multitude of books of rules and of do's and do not do's on Shabbat? Like, it makes us wonder, right? Like, what is Shabbat really about? What did it become? And how much genuine is everything that we do to connect us to what Shabbat was in its origin? Shabbat at the end of the day could be, I could say, like 5 minutes anytime that you choose during the day or during the week. And in those 5 minutes, you are committing, because this is going to be the center energy of your entire week, you're committing to yourself, to nobody else, that planting as many seeds of positivity, of optimism, of desire, greater desire, increasing our level of consciousness to be closer to the Creator, to have more certainty in times of fear and doubt and wanting to give up. And if we are to dedicate 5-10 minutes a week, because it's so hard, like think about it, like people are telling us it's impossible to stop thinking for a minute. Impossible to stop thinking for a minute. So how would it be possible for an entire Shabbat, 25 hours, to be dedicating our behavior, our attitude, our actions, our words, our emotions, our thoughts, all towards sanctity and all towards connection and prayer and elevating our consciousness? I'm sorry for saying that, but it's impossible. It is impossible. What I want to take from this is, first of all, we are all sitting as human beings. Correct me if I'm wrong. We are all human beings. And as human beings, we're not perfect. So it would be up to each and every single one of us to, you know what? If we are to choose the concept of Shabbat, what is the concept of Shabbat? The concept of Shabbat is to connect to the Creator. But the Kabbalists are us that in order to connect to the Creator, we need to connect to our internal holy soul. How can we connect to the Creator if we cannot connect to our pure self, to our perfected self? And so it says that in the multitude of blessings that we have, prayers that we have, all the prayers begin with Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, and then there is a different ending. Blessed are you, God, for sanctifying or injecting energy in this food, in this water, in this liquid, in this pretty thing, in this sight, in this nature, whatever. But it always starts, Baruch Atah Hashem. Blessed are you, God. And so the Kabbalists are commenting on that, come on, does God need the praise? Does God have the ego that he needs, little ants like us to say, blessed are you, God? Like, does God need our blessing? That we need to bless God? No, the answer is no. And so every time that we say Baruch Atah Hashem, it is not talking about God in the upper there. It is talking about our soul. Blessed are you, God, that is inside of me, because my soul is a spark of the Creator. My soul is a spark of the Creator, and every time that I'm doing a blessing, a meditation, it is to elevate the light that is inside of me. And so if we are, again, we're going back to the objective of Shabbat. What is the objective of Shabbat? It is to connect to the light force of the Creator through my own connections to God inside of me, whatever that means to each and every single one of us. Now, if Shabbat means to you Saturday, great, you can dedicate this time of connection, of uplifting, and it's very, like, I would never expect any of my students to, for 25 hours, because I'm not doing it, for 25 hours to do connections, prayer, meditations, etc., like being selfless. So this is why also people go to the synagogue. My neighbor, who is religious Christian Orthodox, he goes to church 2 or 3 times a week, and once a week he has a sermon of his own, and his father is a pastor, and they're following, and he's like fascinated by Judaism, because Christians and Judaism are very close in everything that they do, the Shabbat, the wine, the bread, like the holidays, like everything, like they see similarities in everything. So if Shabbat, which purpose is to connect to God for you, from your upbringing, from your culture, from your religion, is on Shabbat, great. Dedicate 10 minutes, an hour or 2. For those that used to come to the Toronto Center, the connection was super long. It was like for 5 hours. It should be like an hour and a half. And then you're done with it. But, you get there like at 8 or 9 a.m. and it finishes, if you're staying for the meals and second meal and third meal and fourth meal and fifth meal and sixth meal, you're there like, 26 days in a row. Anyway, so, but really, like, if you are to dedicate, like an hour on the day that represent, it's the idea, when is Shabbat for you? When are you ready to commit to yourself, to nobody else, to commit to yourself that this day is going to be my Shabbat. This day is going to be my Shabbat. What is the purpose again of the Shabbat? It is the day that I'm going to plant the seeds of all the energy that I'm going to need for the entire week when I will face challenges. It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. Challenges come right and left. And because we are elevating and because we're becoming more spiritual, doesn't make it that challenges disappear. We're just becoming better at handling them and confronting them and overcoming them. When is your Shabbat? Your choice. And on that day that you choose to sanctify the Shabbat, select 1 hour. Select 2 hours if you want to go extra mile. And during this hour or two, plant the seeds that are going to elevate your soul, going to enrich, going to empower your soul. If you don't know what it is, just ask. Ask who? Ask yourself. Ask yourself, if I'm going to do A, B, and C, is that going to be enriching, empowering my soul? Or is that going to be mundane, something that I can do any other time of the week, any time or the time of the year, and it's not necessarily going to raising sparks? And I don't want to give you homework. This is something that you needed to think through to yourself and ask to yourself. Make a list of what is going to be your ritual and make it a ritual. Make it a tradition for you. That's going to be my tradition, that once a week, this is going to be my Shabbat, that I'm going to dedicate to connect to my God. Connecting to my God through the connection, through the sparks within my soul, that is a spark of God. What is going to empower my soul so that I can be more in tune with the light force of the Creator. Does it make sense? Okay, and then there is the concept of Ruach Shtut. Ruach Shtut, like in other words, it's what the Zohar here speaks of, speaking in vain. Speaking in vain, it's like, like you're a joker, you're trying to be like the center of attention, you're saying something silly just to be funny, but it's not heavy in meaning, or it's not deep in psychology, or elevating the sparks, or going to serve any type of purpose. And so the Kabbalists are talking about the idea of Ruach Shtut. And if there is a dedicated time, so for the Jewish people, for the Kabbalists, they're talking about Saturday as the cosmic opening. And they're saying during this day, they are dedicating this day for 25 hours to connect and to elevate and to be closer to God. And if there is any room during the day that they spend into talking about mundane things, that is considered Ruach Shtut. So if you are in a circle that's really religious and you're speaking Ruach Shtut, speaking in vain, you'll have one of the rabbi, one of the spiritual religious person that would come and hit your hand and say, like, what are you doing? Stop talking nonsense. Like, you should open a book, you should study, you should pray, you should do something spiritual. And so this is why I'm saying, like, how did we get to where Abraham was to where we are today? So today the world has become super religious in all sorts of ways. What is religious? What is to become religious? To become religious is basically to be narrow-minded. Narrow-minded means that my way is the highway and any other way is wrong. That is religiosity. Now, you can be religious with religion, or you can be religious with an opinion, with an idea, with a way of life, with a way to do things, with a way to educate your children, with a way to help people, with a way to, to find world peace, with a way to save the planet, with a way to do certain deals and businesses, and with a way to operate, with a way to do surgery. And so all these things are very limiting, because when a person is stuck in his old ways or in her old beliefs, then that limitations is not allowing something new to come in, and another opinion, another way, another perspective, another angle, which could not show this person that this person is wrong, but to show this person that he or she is right. But there is another way to do it that not only could be right as well, but might be interesting to investigate, because this alternative or this additional way to do it, could expand so many possibilities that I didn't even think about. And we see this in every area. We see this in medicine, we see this in science, we see this in religion, we see this in so many ways of repeating itself, and we can use the verb or the word becoming religious. So we don't want to become religious. We want to stay away from religiosity. At the same time, if you have somebody that is religious, it does not mean that you cannot learn from that person. On the contrary, because if you have a person who has become religious because that's just the way that this person has done things for the last 30 or 40 years, and they have great amount of experience, great amount and wealth of knowledge, there is a tremendous amount that we can learn from people that are religious. But from our perspective, we want to make sure that we keep our head centered so that we don't fall into the religiosity. It's very hard to do, by the way, because if you're surrounded by religious people, likely the chance is that you're going to become religious, right? If you all day hear, religious idea, religious idea, religious idea, religious idea, habit makes perfect, and basically we start thinking the way that we've been surrounded with or by or listened to or even practiced, etc. So yes, there is tremendous amount that we can learn from religious people, but I'm saying we need to do the best that we can not to fall into the same basket. So if we are to talk about spiritual matters, I have a lot of books. I have hundreds of books, and a lot of them are of spiritual nature. Now, if you open the books and you read them, it's probably 70 to 80% religiosity, very religious books. But at the same time, if you are able to open those books and to extract the spiritual message, then it can be very powerful, very interesting, very educational, very uplifting. But at the same time, it takes a practice and an exercise not to look at the religious ideas and make them part of your knowledge. Because from the moment that you repeat what religious knowledge was there, it becomes part of who you are, part of your knowledge, part of your education, part of whatever you're going to transmit to others. And we see that in all sorts of ways. We see that today with politics, we see that with the economy, we see that with so many different ways. So I am warning always people to be careful with religiosity. And to give you a perfect idea, there are people that came to the center to convert. It is not something that we generally do, but in occasion we've helped some people to go through the process. And at first we advise against. Why would you advise against? Like, it should be like, if you're a Jew, it should be like one of your, prerogative. It should be like one of your, like top level objective. And I see my neighbor who, who's a religious Christian, he would score stars in the upper world if he converts people to Christianity. So it's totally something that is acceptable, in every religion almost. And so it's definitely not the objective of the center, because the objective of Kabbalah is really to make people spiritual and not the opposite. And the opposite being religious. And I've advised people against doing the conversion, because people that convert in general become more religious than the religious. Why? Because to convert, they need to go through a process of 2 years of religion when they do it the Orthodox way. When they do it the fast pass Disneyland, you can get it within 6 months. That was a joke if you didn't pick it up. like fast pass, like, like 6 months. There are even like expressions to describe it, but anyway, I'm not going to mention that. There are different ways to do it, but the Orthodox way that is greatly accepted in Israel, if somebody wants to do Aliyah in Israel, like they don't accept. I think only lately there are some bills that have been voted by the religious organization, which is like a mafia in Israel, to accept those that have been converting Reform and conservative outside of Israel to emigrate as Jews. Otherwise, they, until not so long ago, they didn't recognize them. So all that to say, for 2 years, all you do every single day is study, is listen, is speak religious ideas. After 2 years that you've converted, it's almost impossible to go back at not being religious. So you've acquired the ideas, you've acquired the knowledge, you've acquired the, the fashion, whatever, like the tradition. It's almost impossible not to become religious. So this is why, in general, I advise against, like, if you want, you can read books and everything about it. But if it's a soul calling, the person can still go through it. But if they ask me, I would say, like, why? Like, why do you want to convert? Can you just be happy with who you are and just add on to your connections to the Creator without having to A, B, and C? No. If the person has a soul calling, then there is nothing you can do to stop. But 100% of the cases that I've seen of people that came to the center and became converted and became religious, it's like 100% of the cases. So the similar idea here that we're discussing, like, how did it start? Like the whole, like if you're looking at the seed level of Judaism and all the rest of the religions, really, it started with Abraham. And Abraham didn't have the holy days. He didn't have Shabbat. But then came Moses and the Israelites in Egypt still, and they decided while they were in Egypt to dedicate Saturday as Shabbat. So for 200 years before that, when they were in Egypt, they didn't have Shabbat. I mean, they had like things. But until Moses basically decreed that this is going to be the day, that they're going to sit in their tents and that they're going to sing and meditate and pray, there was not such a thing. And in those times, there was basically Pharaoh that, with his advisors, that said, maybe we should not let those people pray, because as they pray and they connect and they get closer to the Creator, it makes them less addicted to the 1%. It makes them more elevated. And Egypt represents the 1%, right? The ideology of Egypt is the desire to receive for the self alone, success, fame, and pride, etc. And so the first idea before they went into all the craziness and the 10 plagues, etc., Pharaoh increased the opportunities to work more. Not only maybe like 9 to 5, maybe they worked 2 hours more, that was not enough. He added Shabbat, whatever became their Shabbat. He added the Shabbat, and if anybody would agree to work on that Shabbat, they would get paid the double, the quadruple of whatever they were making. So imagine if the person not just needs it, because really the Israelites were wealthy in Egypt. So they didn't really need it in the 1% in the physical terms. But the greediness pushed them to choose between the 1% making more money and the spiritual connections. And so whatever time it took Moses to get those people to sit in the tents and to meditate and to pray, etc., and to elevate their consciousness, it didn't take long until Pharaoh picked up on it and basically took them astray, took them away from those connections by tempting them with more money, with more physicality. And so what I'm trying to say is that whatever time we are dedicating to be the day that's going to be sanctified as the Shabbat for us, whatever that means to you, you might be tempted. Your Satan is not going to be happy with it. Because if I go back to the text, to what we read, it was speaking about here we go. And the Holy One, blessed be he, and the congregation of Israel ask about him, who it is, who is that? Who is it that desires to interrupt our union? Who is he that needs the non-holy? And so there is an energy, there is a consciousness that is opposite to the consciousness of our soul. The consciousness of our soul is one to heal, is one to elevate, is the one to connect and to share. And there is another consciousness that is in the balance of all, the good and the bad, the positive and the negative, that has to be there because it gives us a choice. It gives us a choice to connect or to stay connected or to pull us away. And by the way, when it pulls us away, it's not necessarily mundane stuff. It could be important things. It could be super important things that you can't just say no to. Oh, I can meditate any other time. But when you make yourself a commitment, for example, on that day I'm going to, I know that going to the center from this time to that time is my Shabbat connection. Now, if you choose that connection to be on Sunday, to be on Monday, to be on Wednesday, whatever works for you. If it's going to be an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours that you're going to dedicate, this is going to be my seed level for the entire week. You will be tempted by the opposite force because it isn't interested in you elevating from Egypt, in you elevating from your bondage. What is the bondage? Is that the coming week, we are going to be challenged. And it says that on that Shabbat, we have the capacity, we have the ability to download all the energy that we're going to need for the coming week, to overcome any challenge that's going to come that we're going to be confronted with on that Shabbat, on that window. Give yourself a chance to first determine what is that Shabbat, when is that Shabbat, to decide for yourself what are you going to do in that window, to elevate your consciousness, to stay focused, because that is going to determine how much light you're going to reveal, for the coming week that you will need to face any type of challenges. And to be aware that as much as you are creating this potential energy that's going to be flowing down, as a result, you are also creating, it's the balance of this universe, an opposite force that will give you a choice to be distracted or not. Where each and every single time that we're creating an opportunity to reveal light, we are creating a force that needs the non-holy. Every time that we're creating, that we are praying, that we are God, give me this miracle. God, bring this opportunity, this soulmate, more finances, nicer friends, nicer environments, nice opportunities to do A, B, and C. Every single time that we are asking, that we're creating a vessel to draw light, we are creating this equal match that is interested only into one thing, and that is the non-holy. The opposite force wants us to be drawn to the non-holy, while our heart and our mind is asking right now to connect to something that is holy. Something that is holy is something that is good, basically. Something that is better from where you are right now. That's holiness. We can't talk about holiness as perfection because we're not there. It takes like, so many layers, so much progress until we get there. But on our level, holiness is next level. Is a little bit more of this, a little bit better health, a little better friendship, a little better love, a little better of everything. So it's not the perfected state of things. And so the same way that we can just, skip all the steps and get to perfection, equally, we're never going to be faced with a full-fledged, with the full potential of negativity that would be equal to the amount of light that we truly have the potential to reveal. So not to worry. We are to create, these two positive and negative forces with our desire, with our will, with our hope, with our dreams. We're going to draw those opportunities to realize those dreams, but we are also the creators of the opportunity that's going to give me the choice to be distracted, to be lazy, to be procrastinating, to be giving up, to be sad. Those would be the opportunities to push through, to reveal this extra light. Every extra light would be met with a matching force. And the objective for each and every single one of us is to connect a step closer to the light that is inside of us, and as a result, connect to the bigger picture light. There is no such a thing, by the way, I'm connected to God directly. There is no such a thing. Anybody that tells you, I'm connected to God directly, like BS. It's not true. It doesn't work this way. The way that it does work is that we connect to God through the sparks of God that exist within me. And that God that exists within me through my soul, elevating this vibration, elevating this frequency, we get closer. God does not come down. It's like a vibration. That vibration is just naturally more elevated. It is me that matches that higher frequency, that higher vibration, that elevates closer, and then we make ourselves more connected. God does not come down to be, with the filth, excuse my French. And when we are in the malchut of the malchut of the malchut, that's the filth compared to all the way up there. To all the way up there, there is some steps to go through. And it starts with us staying focused, decide on a day, decide on a time, decide on the ritual, decide on being balanced during this time and not be distracted by anything. You can be religious in that. You can be religious in that. If you become religious in order to connect to the light in a spiritual way, I mean, it's hard to even but you just said not being religious. To be religious in a way that you are repeating the action that you know that elevates. If you realize that the repetition is becoming religious, meaning that it's stagnant in a way that it's the same thing. You've overcame it at the beginning. When you started the process, it was hard for you to do it, but now it becomes, it's a piece of cake. If it has become piece of cake and it just became habit, that became religious. But if we're taking the repetition of always taking ourselves to the next level, add a little bit more weight, add a little bit more time, add a little bit more focus, add a little bit more consciousness, that's how we can advance. But the idea, again, of Shabbat, the purpose of Shabbat is to connect to God through our soul. There is no connecting direct because that's putting the fingers in the socket. It is our soul that elevates, that connects to a higher level of frequency where God is. When we lower our frequency to Malchut, to physical things, that is when we are connected to the filth consciousness. What is the filth consciousness? Desire to receive for yourself alone, sadness, grudge, not being able to forgive, loneliness, anger, being upset for no reason, or plenty of reasons actually. So let's meditate and pray that we can do those things in a practical way so that we can elevate our frequency, be more connected to God through my own inner being, and start tasting it, or tasting it even more than we have in the past. Any questions? Yes.
This is from a little while back that this crossed my mind, but you know how during the year there are certain days, Shabbat being one of them, but energetic windows in time that whether or not people know that it's happening, just like the Omer or just things throughout the year, they're happening. And I don't know when those things were decreed, but I was thinking if before Shabbat was decreed, like you said, did it exist energetically? Like what was there something that existed, like decreed sort of by God that was energetic about that day before someone decided that a Saturday was, was there an energy before it was decreed? If we don't know about energies and they exist anyway, I'm just wondering. I just wondered.
Yeah. I mean, it's very good questions, and at the same time, I would say yes and no. The yes part is that yes, there is the cosmic opening of Shabbat, there is the cosmic opening of the new moon, there is the cosmic opening of the holidays, and at the same time, when we're looking at Abraham, who was basically the highest on the Sfirot, he is representing the energy of Chesed. He was not doing Shabbat. He was not observing Shabbat, but he was the highest of the souls. He was like the seed of the seed, even before, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Like the whole trilogy, I was going to say. Like the whole trio, like Abraham did not have those traditions. But yes, throughout time, those were revealed because people were ready for that. But then I really want to make the distinction also in addition, because we don't just have people that are on the screen today that, that observe Shabbat, for example, or that know of Shabbat being Saturday. Because for them, Shabbat is on Sunday, and it's totally okay. As long as in your mind, this is the day that you connect to God, like 1,000%. If that is the day that you connect to God, 1,000%. And on that day, you just focus an hour or two or the whole day if you can. But conversely, I know countless of people that observe Shabbat, that know of Shabbat as a cosmic opening, And if they are not terrible people, they're very selfish people. Or they're not spiritual people, even if they would brand themselves as spiritual. And a lot of the religious people would call themselves spiritual people. But spiritual people are people that work on themselves, that are sharing, that are like magnets to other people, that are becoming conduits of energy, conduits of lessons, conduits of wisdom. And if that person is, giving you the business because you're not wearing a yarmulke because you're a man and you go to the temple and you get like a slap on the back of your head, forgive me, but that's not being spiritual. And so that religiosity is, the Zohar speaks about it, the, commentaries speak about, the decrees that were created. Unfortunately, the line is so thin between truly becoming spiritual and idol worship. Because when the decree becomes a commandment, something that you must do before, like, do you feel in your guts and in your soul that this is something that is right for you right now? Or do you follow it because it's written and because your father did it, or because of guilt and because of God knows if you're not going to do it? Like, think about it. If you do anything out of fear, is that healthy? Forget about religion for a second. If you do anything out of fear, if you do anything out of obligation, is that the spiritual thing to do? I don't think so. So going back to this idea of, the cosmic openings, yes, but because there is that potential to reveal light, there is that equal force that is going to be there to make you connect to the non-holy. So wherever there was the best and most pure and like something that you cannot imagine how much potential there was for humanity to elevate and to connect, we all fell. We all fell in the hole. We all fell in the trap of this opposite force that distracted us and made us connect to the non-holy, because becoming religious is becoming non-holy by connecting to the non-holy. And so, yes, we can use the knowledge of religiosity, of all the books, but we need to make sure that we're remaining balanced and spiritual in the way that we do it. Because today you're talking about Shabbat, great, Shabbat, but what if next week your family is coming and you need to drive to go and see there? I'm not going to tell you to drive, but what's the choice? Because you could have put your Shabbat and your practice before your family in this case, and I've done that. And in my experience, there's so many decisions that I've made that today maybe I'm thinking that I could have done it differently. Because I put religion before family or before other important things. And you need to think about it. You need to think about it at the end of the day, what's going to stay with you? Because today it felt right to do what you did because of the books and because of the charts and because of what you were told to do. But I would always say, from where I stand today, how does it feel? How does it feel to you? Does it feel right? Does it feel good? Before you dive into the books and let's see what the text is saying, should I do A, B, and C? My first go-to thing right now, how does it feel? Does it feel good to me to do A, B, and C? Doesn't feel good. Okay, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it differently. Think about it. What is going to make you connect to God better today through your own connections? At the end of the day, it's going to be like everything that evolves today. Even education is not evolving towards traditional education. I see with my kids, because, you know, they're the early stages. It's Montessori and it's individual education. It's not like putting everybody like, you know, like chicken, and everybody is in the same basket and need to learn the same thing and need to be tested on the same thing. You know, this is, you know, how everybody has been programmed, like machines. How is your individual connection? How is your individual growth? Maybe this one needs to go slower. Maybe this one needs to go faster. Maybe this one needs to take a break from that and needs to study something else because of his inner calling. Does it feel good to me right now to study A, B, and C? No, it doesn't feel good. So I want to study something else. I want to connect to something else. I want to talk to a different person. We need to be more in touch with our inner being, with our soul, so that we can connect better to God. And we needed to reiterate this question: how does it feel? Am I doing the right thing? Sometimes we don't know, and it's okay. Did I answer your question?
That was the best answer I could have ever hoped for. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other question? Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining, and I'll see you next Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you.